let's just start off by asking legally and medically, what does it mean to be able to tell right from wrong?
Okay, so specifically with legally, there's a standard in California and also a lot of other states when it's called pleading insanity. There's specific criteria for that insanity plea. So meaning if someone were to commit a crime and they had a mental illness at the time of the crime, they needed 3 things in order to plead insanity. You have to have a severe mental illness. Because of that mental illness, you didn't know what you were doing, meaning I didn't know that this was a knife and that knives can, when stabbing someone in the heart, can puncture them and kill them, and didn't know the difference between right and wrong. Now, legally, when they say right and wrong, they mean societal and moral standards. So in our society, we have deities, specifically Christian society, which our country is based on, is God. So if you're doing something on behalf of God and you felt that morally you were doing the right thing, for example, God told me to barricade the doors and drown my baby because if I didn't do that, the baby wouldn't get into heaven. And you truly believe that because of a delusion. You could file the insanity plea and potentially win because you were doing it for a morally right reason that was above society standards. God is above society. He's the moral center. But if you're doing it on behalf of Satan, which society views as evil, you couldn't file the insanity plea because everyone in society knows that Satan is bad. So if you're doing it on behalf of an evil entity, it's considered wrong.
Now, I agree with that, me personally, but legally, I don't know how you could make that argument because we have no preference for religion.
Yeah. So that's the thing, and that's where it kind of gets tricky. So when we're evaluating someone for an insanity plea, of course we look at what the events that led up to it, but you look at history, you look at, okay, they've had this diagnosis, they've had this mindset for a while, they use the same consistent deity. Afterwards, even after treatment, they might have realized what they've done and or still stay in the same mindset. It was something consistent. The thing about the society standard is that that's what we have to base it on to make this plea, because if we just kind of made it inclusive, it opens up to interpretation and can basically open the floodgates for a lot of people saying, oh, I kill in the name of
ancient Egyptian deity.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you couldn't say I'm killing in the name of an ancient Egyptian deity. See, that's still, I can't get behind that.
Yeah. So I've never seen it personally. I mean, sure, depending on the lawyer, depending on the evaluator, maybe you can say that this deity and kind of give the history of this deity to kind of explain how it's morally right to this person because it could potentially be culturally specific. But then again, you got to convince a courtroom. You got to convince a judge. You got to convince jurors. And what do judges and courtrooms and lawyers all know? Everyone knows God because we live here in America. So it's easier to use that deity as opposed to someone probably lesser known. So again, it's based on society's version of morality. It might not be right, but if you're a good lawyer and a good evaluator, you can probably present a case where someone like that or something like that can be considered morally right. You just have to give context and kind of give the history of that deity to kind of explain to the court how, in that person's culture, it's considered morally right.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. Just extra legwork, but it can be done. I personally haven't seen it. It's just easier to say God or Jesus or any of these other official figures that our society knows the best.
That's really interesting. That's probably going to have you back just to talk about that because define God.
Yeah, that's true.
Say it's not raw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, God is very vague.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. We got to
Yeah. Look it up. Yeah, for all the viewers, look it up. Yeah, that's the standard. The insanity plea. It's very hard to prove. Actually, 1% of people who use the insanity plea actually are successful. So very rare to use that plea and very rare to actually successfully win it because you have to prove all 3 of those things at the time of the crime. And it's very hard to do.
Okay. So if somebody is mentally disabled, can they not tell right from wrong because of their disability?
No, they can't.
Okay.
So the thing is, when you can tell right from wrong, you know that what you're doing can get you legally in trouble. So I know if I were to stab, like a better example, you, and I happen to fear for my life or something like that, then I know that if I stab you and potentially hurt you or kill you, that I could go to jail. And I know society's punishments for that situation. If you truly didn't know, then your actions wouldn't follow it. So, for example, if I were to stab you and I was out of my mind, I wouldn't try to help you. I wouldn't try to hide the knife. I wouldn't try to run, because if you did those things, you know what you did is wrong. So your behaviors have to match the actions. If you're a person that, yeah, I stabbed you and then I'm sitting here doing the podcast alone covered in your blood and I'm just sitting here for days, maybe not even eating or anything, and then the police come and find your decomposed body with, sorry, this is getting dark, but find your decomposed body and me covered in blood, I'm just sitting here, then that would basically say you don't know what you're doing, because your actions don't follow that.